Today is for the Tesva of Elul, a Tashin Samik Test.
Just chart 4, I fall down.
The Shir Klali with Rav Gafni, Parshas Ki Savo.
So it's a chair that just sort of slide back. Alright, so we're turning in this week's Parsha Ki Savo, turning to chapter Kof Vav, chapter 26, Pasuk Tesai. Now this pasuk occurs at the completion of the two mitzvahs which are brought at the beginning of the parsha, the mitzvah of Bikurim, and what we saw, the mitzvah to bring the Bikurim to the base of Mikdash and to present them to the Kohen, and then the statement that the person has to make in praise of the Eibush, the whole arichas that we saw at the Indian of the Amira, that he has to state a whole statement together with the bringing of the Bikurim. And then it was followed by a further mitzvah similar in content to what we call Vidui Maisres. That when a Yid in the Shnas HaMaaser, the fourth year, the Shemitah, where he has to clear out all of his Maisres that he might have kept in the other years and hadn't brought them to Yerushalayim, then when he brings them to Yerushalayim, then he has to say a whole vidui in front of the Eibush, a whole prayer in front of the Eibush, thanking him for all the welfare that he got and stating how he's kept all the mitzvahs of bringing the Ma'aser Sheni to Yerushalayim. That's called vidui Ma'asers. And then he sums it all up at the conclusion with asking the Eibush to look down from heaven, Kaviyohu, on Eretz Yisrael and bless Eretz Yisrael and bless the Jewish people as a reward and as a result of them having kept all the mitzvahs, both the union of Bikurim and the union of Ma'asers. Particularly the union of Ma'aser Sheni, which you have to bring to Yerushalayim and actually eat the Ma'aser in Yerushalayim. Then following all that, we then meet up at a pasuk, a series of psukim, which we're going to pay attention to. And the pasuk says like this: Hayom hazeh, on this particular day, Hashem Elokecha mitzavcha aseis es hachukim ha'ele, es hamishpatim. This day, the Eibishter is commanding you to carry out these statutes. Chukim is mitzvahs b'loi ta'am. Mishpatim are the mitzvahs that they fit into the union of ta'am. You can picture a reason, and we can even think of reasons why these mitzvahs were given to us. V'shomarta v'asisa oisam b'chol levavcho v'chol nafshecha. You should guard them and keep them, do them, b'chol levavcho, with all of your heart and with all of your nefesh. And then he says, as Hashem ha'marto hayom, you have literally caused the Eibush to say, or you have said something, or you have done something. We'll see in a second what that is. You've literally elevated Hashem, or you've made him this day li yesh l'chol elokim, that he should be your God, your divinity. V'loleches bedrochov, and that means that you're going to go in his ways. V'lishma chukov v'mitzvesov v'mishpato. You're going to guard all the mitzvahs and all the chukim that he's given you. V'lishmoya b'koi loim, and you're going to listen to him or obey him. Everything that he's told you to do, you're going to see that it be carried out. And then, as a result of that, Hashem her mircho, like you were ma'amir Hashem, you literally said something or did something to elevate Hashem. Then, as a return of that, then the Eibush similarly will do that to you. He will also make you something very special. He will make you a people of magic, something unusual, something.
I need a drink.
You need bruh?
A drink.
Oh, I don't know. What you couldn't drink before you
I need to concentrate in the class.
Well, I'm concentrating here, but I'm not drinking. And the Eibush did the same back to you to make you a magic people, literally, a wondrous people, Amos Gula, Kasher Dibeloch, like he spoke to you, Volishmer Kov Mitzvahs, once again, to keep all the mitzvahs, Sitcho Elyon Al Kol HaGoyim, and to make you the highest over all the peoples. Asher Asor, what the Eibush has made. Sehila Ula Shem Ula Sifer, for literally for praise, for name, and for splendor. And it should be a holy people to the Eibush like he has spoken to. So here we see that then after that, the pasuk goes on with the very unusual mitzvah of taking all the stones and putting them in the Yarden and putting them up on Eretz Yisrael and making an altar out of them, eventually writing the whole Torah on the stone. But then the Torah goes on with further mitzvahs which are necessary for the entry into Eretz Yisrael. So we see here in the middle like an amazing summing up of something. First of all, we finished with practical mitzvahs, bikurim and maisres and vidi maisres, albeit with special brachas and special inyanim, what those things imply. And then, all of a sudden, hayom hazeh, this day, a whole wondrous statement, like summing up the whole inyan of what you might call the giving of the Torah and the whole inyan of the relationship between Yidden and the Eibush, all summed up in a few words. So we need to understand what is the nature of this, like, few psukim that occur in the middle of the final mitzvahs, which Moshe Rabbeinu completes the whole Torah prior to the actual entry into Eretz Yisrael. And he says, Hayom hazeh, this day. So it comes along Rashi, Hayom hazeh, Hashem Elokecha mitchavcho, this day the Eibush is commanding you. Says Rashi, B'chol yom yiyu beinecha chadoshim, that every day all of the mitzvahs should be new in your eyes, that it should be new, like a new inyan. Ki'ilu boi bayom nitzavesa aleihem. Kilu, today, or this very day, wherever you'll be, on that particular day, then you have to look at that day as if this was the day that you were commanded on the mitzvah. You were commanded to do the mitzvah. So what does Rashi want with that? I mean, Hayom Hazeh was some sort of a day. So we have to say that Rashi's Nakuda is Hayom Hazeh Hashem Elokecha Mitzav Kol Asais Es HaChukim Ha'eleh. This is 40 years after Torah. This is when the Yidden are already now on the banks of the Yarden. They're in Aris Moyov. They're about to go over into Eretz Yisrael. I remember, was it this day the Eibusher commanded you to do all the mitzvahs? The Eibusher commanded you to do the mitzvahs 40 years back. And if Rashi is puzzled, what is the statement? Hayom Hazeh Hashem Mitzavcho. The Eibusher commanded you today. And I feel that Tim Solomon that today sounds a very special day. Except Ayom Miyuchad. Or you can't say that this is the day that the Eibusher commanded you. And the Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu here is like summing up the whole Oifen of Avodah in mitzvahs prior to the entry into Eretz HaKodesh and prior to the finalization of the bris, the covenant with the Jewish people that he brings later on with the origin, with the cursed be this and blessed be this man. What Rashi brings in all the great Meforshim, the Gemara says in Masechta Sota that was like a final covenant on the Torah mitzvah prior to the actual going into Eretz Yisrael. And the chiddush of that covenant was that everybody became a Revim Zela, that all Yidden became, each Yid became responsible for the Nadya. Everybody is held responsible for the acts of other Yidden. Therefore you can't say, Ploni ben Ploni is not per se the Avanias Nafshi Hitzalti, but I've looked after myself, I've saved my soul, because Kol Yisrael Arevim Zelo. Prior to that bris, which is a bit later in the Pesukim, Moshe Rabbeinu sums up what is the whole Oifen of the Kabbalah Satira in Avodah Yom Yom prior to entering the Eretz Yisrael, which is the emissary. Hayom Yom, the day-to-day life which is going to take place. And he says, every day the mitzvahs have to be just like today you were commanded upon them. In other words, every day when you do the mitzvahs, it has to be new mitzvahs altogether, just like you got them to today. And you might have thought, well, write it with a kof hadimya. You say, kechadoshim, like new. So Rashi doesn't beat around the bush, to use the old expression, but he says that every day they have to be new in your eyes. Chadoshim. And he says even more, Ki'ilu boi v'yayim nitzavesa. This day was the day you were. That's asal to shana. How can a man do that? I mean, Matan Torah was already, how many thousand years ago we're holding now? How can a man be Mekayim HaMitzvah today, and he can have the same chayz as if he got it today from the Eibusher's mouth, as you might say on Mount Sinai. Where do you get that sort of koyach and that sort of chayah? And that's what you might call an almost inhuman bakosha, something that a mensch does every day. There's certain mitzvahs that you do every day, and if there's certain mitzvahs you don't do every day, then usually they're periodical in some way or another. They reoccur in the so-called cycle of the year. So there might be certain mitzvahs, like we saw Shiluach HaKan, for example. It's an unusual thing. Prat le'mezuman, Rashi says over there. Not if it's been arranged. It's something they just meet up with it. How do you call it? Kaviyochel. Coincidental, to use the incorrect expression. It just happened in the Shamayim, etc., etc. But usually all the mitzvahs are come even the lifetime of a mention periodically. How can you say no? You got to do them every time new in a even that you just got them today. And I'm commanding you, David, to do it right at this very moment. And then Rashi says, Shamato Asiso Eson, Paskil Mevorchasai. Evesa Bikuri Mayim, Tishana Lashana Habo. Now Rashi learns interesting that even though this is a new parsha, as we point out, it's a new statement, but that particular, that's a whole pure, in Pirush Rashi, what I'm not going into. Now Rashi learns that Rashi is referring back to, and that's also Avtocha, that if you keep the mitzvahs now, then the Eivishter promises you that Lashana Habo, if it's mitzvahs, they come in any period of time, then Bilti Safik, the bracha of the keeping of the mitzvahs will give you that you'll be Mekayim at the Pama Habo, Bilti Safik. It's a bracha, and it's a Avtocha from the Eivishter. So we see that that's connected with this whole meaning, that not only they're going to be new, but they'll always be there in your life, that you'll be able to be zeicher. If you did it once, you'll be zeicher to repeat Pam after Pam the inyan and the mitzvahs in a way of newness. So now comes on Rashi and he says, however, in Pasuk Yud Zayin is Hashem Hermato Hayoim. And in Pasuk Yud Ches, Hashem Hermircho Hayoim. What is that? So therefore Rashi says, Hermato Hermircho. So Rashi says, Ein Lahem Eid Mochia Pamikra. They don't have a similar idiom which would bear witness on them in the scripture. In other words, that usage of a word like that, we don't find it elsewhere in scripture. That I could bring you a dogma. Marto, you did something in the form of Marto. So therefore Rashi says, V'li niro, it appears to me, Shu Loshen Hafrosh V'Adola. It means to separate off, literally to single out. Hivdaltiv lecha me elokei hanecha lies lecha leelikim. Yeah, that literally you say to the Eivishter that I've separated him off, especially from all the idols and all the other in Pusta, in Yonim, the Goyim, and I've made him for my Eivishter, my divinity. If Dautiv, and some people learn, love Davki the word Lecho, or Dauti Li, or whatever, that the man says, I've separated the Eivishter for myself to be my God. Well, how's it shy to separate the Eivishter? Because there's a lot of other people who believe other. So who? Yeah, Herr Mircha, the Eivishter has done the same for you. Vu Ifrishcha Eilo, and he separated you off. Aye, what's he got to separate you from? Me Amei Ha'aretz, from all the other Goyim, Lia Isloilo Am Segula, that you should be how do you call it? Like a magic or how do you call it? Special, unusual, what's the word? Like a elixir, like a magic force. Yazgula, Am Skula, Mikola Goy. Sure. So Rashi says that it's an unusual word, so that means that Rashi's not learning it from the word Omer to say. I might have thought that Her Martor is some sort of interesting combination of the verb to say, Omar. And therefore Rashi says, no, it's another word, and it's got to do with separating off or making special. And therefore, if I'm not mistaken, that there's somewhere in the Nach which uses the word Amir with the Aleph Mem Yud Resh, and that means like the top or separated off at the edge of the heights, like Gavor, Amir. No with the Ayin, no with the Aleph. Pamela says, Rashi, that's seen that I've separated the Eivishter from all the Elokei HaNeicha, and he separated me off from all the Goyim, hasn't he? Huh?
We don't know. The only.
Oh yes, we do. If we just pay attention, then we know.
Yeah, what are we separating it from? We don't know what it is separated from, so how can we say that?
It's B'mele. I'm sorry, if you just pay careful attention, then I already explained that. So comes along Rashi now, and he says, "U'motzosi lohem aid." I found them a witness in the rest of the psukim, and he said, "Loshen tiferet." It'll be a loshen of beauty, or how do you call it, special impression, beauty. Hello? Hello? Are you taking a phone call?
No.
Who loshen tiferet? Kemoi. Now tiferet means splendor or wondrousness. Kemoi yisamru kol payali oven. Now that's a pasuk we say in the Shir Shel Yom. I think it's on Thursday, or Wednesday. Yisamru kol payali oven. That all the evil people think they're big doers. You know, they think they're big makers. How do you call it? Machas. Yisamru. They think they're special and powerful. Yisamru kol payali oven. So Rashi says, I did find an aid b'mikra. So all the great Meforshim and Rashi say that, wait a minute, you can't sort of say the two opposites in one sentence. At the beginning, Rashi says, "Loi matzosi aid b'mikra." I didn't find a similar lashon to this in the whole scripture. And all of a sudden he says, "Matzosi lohem aid." I did find. So we don't say at the beginning you didn't find. Just say two pshurushim. Say it could maybe be that, could maybe be that. And first of all, Rashi says he didn't find, then he says he did. So certain of the great Meforshim say it's like two hadulas in Rashi, like two editions. In the old edition, Rashi said that. In the new edition, he said that it was two Pirushim. It was like mistakenly they got together, but really, originally Rashi said one Pirush, and then later he may have wanted to alter that Pirush and write the second one. Now the interesting is that Rashi mentions that whole idea of Hamata Hayim in about 3 places in Shas, in the Gemara. We'll soon mention it. And over there he learns, in each place in the Gemara, he learns this last pshat. He learns this from Loshen Tiferes, and he brings the pasuk Yisamru kol payali oven. Is a simon that at one point or another, Rashi was of the opinion that in effect that seems to be the correct pshat, and that seems to be what he does believe is the aid b'mikra for that word hamato. And so therefore it's interesting that he brings, and so therefore that leads to a temptation to believe that maybe it's like two separate statements at different times by Rashi, and that they were sort of put together for good measure. That's what some people say, but we're not dealing with that either in this class at great length. We're just bringing that to the notice of the attentive reader. And then he says, Kasher diber loch, vehisim li segula. Where did the Abishah say you're going to be a am segula? It's written by Matan Torah. Hashem said, vehisim li segula. You'll be a magic, literally, elixir for me from all the peoples. So that's where he said that. So, what is the taisha segula? What does it mean as segula? So comes along the Rabbeinu Avadia Saporno, but he was a Risha, and he says that calling Yidden the Am Segula, well, that means that the Eibishter had certain things that he wanted to carry out in the Bria. In other words, he didn't make the Bria finished, as is well known. The Bria was only made up to a certain point. The perfection has to come through the Adam. And therefore, the Segula means who is the one that's going to carry out this amazing task of the Eibishter to make the world the way he really means it to be, and to bring it to the ultimate union of perfection, which is going to be taken out when Mashiach will come. So just like the Eibishter is not known in Hasoga, so his ultimate purpose is also not something which is known by Bahasoga. It's not something you just work out in ordinary terms. And therefore you have to have a people that they're prepared to be, how do you call it? Crackers. Right? People who are prepared to act, even from the Mailami Mitam Vadas, in order to carry out the purpose of the Eibishter. And therefore we see by Matan Torah, Rashi connected with Matan Torah, Ayisim Li Skula, that's what David said by the giving of the Torah. The Gemara brings in the Sugya, in Zvek Shav, Matan Torah, that by Matan Torah the Goyim said to Yidden that you guys are crazy. You're a Amma Paziza, you're a hasty and non-thinking people, because you put your mouth before your ears. They state in the Gemara. In other words, that you said, Na'aseh Nishma. In other words, first of all, you hear what you're supposed to do, and then you say you'll do it. That means you put your ears and then your mouth. So what did you guys do? You put your mouth before your ears, and you said Na'aseh, and then you said Nishma. Too late. And therefore the Alter Rebbe says that maybe the Abish would have told you to draw water and cut wood for all the generations to come. How do you know what he's going to tell you to do? And if you guys are, and the Gemara brings a dogma to it to show you that your Amma Paziza was put down there that Abaye, when he used to sit and learn, that Mirov Slavas and Mirov, that he was given over to learning Torah, he used to sometimes sit on his fingers, and then he used to move with tremendous enthusiasm when he's learning, and he used to crush his fingers and they would come out with blood. So some guy came up to him and said, what are you doing, man? You're crushing all your fingers, and they're all rolling blood. And Abaya said, Lava Dato. He said, I didn't even know. I didn't know. I didn't know what's happening. So therefore the guy said, he said, you're from the Ahmed Chaziza. Right? You're from this crazy people. And then he went on to finish the criticism by saying that's the sort of thing you did by Matan Torah also. Edify. That's the Indian says this porno. I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but he doesn't say crackers and things like that, but that's the understanding of the support. Comes along there, Acham HaKodesh, in a very amazing statement. Acham HaKodesh, Am Skula means that the Eibishter literally joined up with Yidden, and they do it, and only they can do it. Even if we will say that maybe some other people or group of people would come along and they would act with the most amazing righteousness, and they would do all the mitzvahs, and they would reach tremendous madrigas in elevation of ruchniyat, and they would become, knowledgeable in Elikus and all sorts of inyanim, and they would go up to the Eibush and they'd say, you see us, we are better than you're Yidden, look at what we're achieving, look at what we're doing, maybe take us on. They would say, thank you very much, my dear gentlemen. You guys look good. He said, but it's me and the Yidden. And that's the way it is. And that is the type segula. It's Hedikot doesn't make any sense. But that's the way it is. And if no matter what another people would achieve or what they would do, how they call it, the Eibush with the Yidden, they're the ones who are going to carry out the kavanah. And if that's the Indian of Ismli Skula. So we need to understand what is the connection between this Indian Ayoim Hazeh, that everything's got to be new every day in your Yiddishkeit, with this Indian, whatever it may really be, of Hermato, that you did something, that you elevated or some way the Eibishter to be your Eibishter from all the other Elokei HaNeicha, and the Eibishter made you into a special Indian apart from all the Goyim, and that is L'Sehila, L'Sheim, U'L'Sifat. 3 Inyanim, Tehila, shame and tefillah. And that's above all the goyim asher also. Even though the Eibishter made all the goyim, he made you l'shem u'l'sila l'shem u'l'sifah. So it comes along the Gemara Masechta Brachos, or this pasuk hermata v'hamirucha, be it as it is unusual, and it's hard to tell what is the real view of that pasuk. Nonetheless, it occurs in 3 at least places in the Gemara, and one of them right near the beginning of Masechta Brachos. And the Gemara says over there, Omer Rabbi Avin bar Rav Ado, Omer Rabbi Yitzchak, Menayin Shakadosh Baruch Hu Maniach Tefillin. Where do we know that the Eibishter puts on tefillin? So he answers him, Shenema, that's a pasuk in Yeshaya Novi, Nishba Hashem biyaminoi, that the Eibishter has made an oath in his right, literally his right arm or his right hand, Ubezreya Uzoi, and in the arm of his strength, that the Eibishter has made an oath in these two in Yonim. So he teaches Rabbi Yitzchak, and he says, Biyaminoi zu Torah, Shenema miyaminoi eish dos lomai, that the right hand of the Eibishter is Torah, because we know it's written right in the end of the Torah in Zeis HaBrocha, that the Eibishter gave the Torah from his right arm, his right hand. Ubezroya uzay, in the arm of his strength, Elul tefillin. These are the Eibishter's tefillin. So Torah is his right arm, and Zroya Uza will be literally the left arm of the Eibishter, as it were. And on that he's putting his tefillin. Shenema Hashem oiz li'ami yitay. That the Eibishter is giving giving strength to his people. I don't understand. Say the Eibishter is putting on. You say that's from the word oiz, and now you say what is the raya? Yeah, that's got to do with tefillin, because it's the Eibishter's tefillin. You say Hashem oiz li'ami yitay. He's giving oiz to the Jewish people. Who is it do it? So he says, "Umanayin shatfilin oiz haim liYisrael." How do we know that the tefillin are strength to the Jewish people? Diksiv v'ro kol amei ha'oretz ki shem Hashem nikra alecha v'yoru mi me'aka. But you guys are probably familiar with the fact that that's a pasuk in this week's parsha. It's a pasuk in the Teichach. You haven't chopped it yet. It's a pasuk in what do you call it? The reprobations, the Teichach. It's written over there that all the peoples of the earth will see that the Eibishter's name is called upon you, and they will fear you. Says the Gemara, V'tanya, and we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer Haggodim, that's Rabbi Eliezer ben Urkenes, Oimer Eilu Tefillin Shebareish. What is it that the Goyim will see that the Eibishter's name is called upon you and they'll be scared of you? Or that is the Tefillin which are literally in the head. How do we know that the oiz with the Eibishter puts on, that's tefillin? We know it from the oiz that he gives to the Yidden. Yeah? What are the oiz that he gives to the Yidden? Tefillin. So if he has oiz, then just like oiz that he gave to Yidden was tefillin, so the oiz that he has is also tefillin. So you see a very interesting thing to how do we know that the Eibishter's tefillin is called oiz? Because what he gave to the Yidden, tefillin, that's called oiz. So we go through the Yidden to get back to Hashem, and to get back to the Eibishter, we go through the Yidden. But the intelligent reader's eyes have already jolted out, even though I didn't notice any particular surprise on the part of any of the people sitting around the table. And that is that the Eibishter puts on tefillin. I understand that the Eibishter's maniach to it. what is the taisa the Eibster put on? So, says the Gemara, the Eibster put on tefillin because Kaviyachol didn't put on tefillin. And the Yidden tefillin is called ois, so if the Eibster got ois, he's also got tefillin. So we see that the ois of the tefillin for the Yidden is that it throws a pachar on the goyim. And it's one on that when the Rebbe came out with the famous Mivtza tefillin way back at the time of the beginning of the 6-Day War, when the Yidden came back with the Indian of the Mivtza tefillin, that the Rebbe spoke about this whole Indian Barichet, that the way to bring the goyim to pachar and to bring fear to the goyim and to win the war was by putting tefillin on all the soldiers. Wasn't that? The Rebbe made a tremendous rash about putting tefillin on all the soldiers, and that's how it began Mivtza tefillin. And he brought this Indian that through putting on tefillin, the goyim will have a pocket for the Yidden. They'll fill a pocket for the Yidden. And you know the famous story of the Alter Rebbe. Everybody's familiar with the story. It's so familiar that it doesn't need to be told, but just for the sake of the shleimus of the Giloy, so we'll mention it briefly. So when they came to arrest the Alter Rebbe at the time of the arrest, which led to Yutas Kislev, so when they first came to get the Alter Rebbe, it was by day. It was in the early morning. It was in the morning. And they came to his house, and somebody said to them that he's in the Beis HaMedrash, the Beis HaMedrash. So they went over to the Beis HaMedrash, and they found the Alter Rebbe in his talis and tefillin. They took one look at the Alter Rebbe in his talis and tefillin. They all fled. They all ran away in pachar. They hid, I feel. And it was only later when they pulled themselves back together again, they decided they'd try again, and they came looking for the Alter Rebbe in his house. Much, much later. It was only towards the evening. So everybody asked Akashi, that before they got to the Alter Rebbe, they passed several Yidden that were in talis and tefillin. The Alter Rebbe wasn't waiting for him at the door of the shul. He was already inside the shul. And it was a time of tefillah, so there was Yidden in talis and tefillin. So when they saw those Yidden in talis and tefillin, they should have run away. And they didn't. But when they saw the Alter Rebbe in talis and tefillin, then they ran away. So somebody asked the Alter Rebbe later, what was that? Makara. The Alter Rebbe answered that the Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer HaGodel, that he says, these are the tefillin which are in the head. So he said it should be written, El tefillin she al haroish. Was it tefillin she baroish? So therefore the Alter Rebbe said that by mir, he said, by me, my tefillin are on my head and in my head. He said, they're on my head and they're also in my head. El tefillin she baroish. He said, by under her, they're on the head, but they didn't yet get into the head. And he said, therefore, when they saw her, they ran away. So he's immediately got a kashia. How come the Rebbe complied that to the whole Klal? To the whole Klal Yisrael?
The question was, what happened when they came to the Alter Rebbe when he didn't have to tefillin?
Oh, yeah, then they wanted to take him.
But they would still have to tefillin Shebarosh, so why?
Shebarosh?
He still had his tefillin inside his head when they arrested him.
The tefillin was still inside his head. Very good. Ain't nothing on me but right state. Yeah, you have to have like the combination of both. Or the difference was that at that particular point the Alter Rebbe hadn't yet decided that he was going to give himself up. But later when they came to get him, the Alter Rebbe was already of the opinion that he should go. Ukiyadua, the ganze Sippa Bador. So that would be answer to that child. And in Emsi you got a good child. Because the Rebbe asked in that famous talk about the Mivtza tefillin, the Rebbe asked the famous child, what about all the peoples down in the front? If they can't be walking around with tefillin on the whole, walking around with tefillin on the whole time. So therefore the Rebbe said that if a Yid puts on tefillin in the morning, then that Indian remains with him the whole day. And the Rebbe said if you put on tefillin and kosher tefillin, you put them on with all the right inyanim al pitorah, you can cause that Indian is nimshuk to another Yid if he has a kosher reason why he's not able to put on tefillin. And that's what we just saw, the Indian from Kol Yisrael, Rav himself, there, with a whole big Arichas Hayin. Guckt euch, Hashem's tefillin are ois, and how do we know the tefillin ois? Because Yidden's tefillin are ois. Comes again the Gemara, and it says, Omelei Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Rav Chia Baravin, Hani tefillin de Mare Alma, Mike Sibu. Are they able to tefillin? What's written in the parashas? What's written in the parashas that they able to tefillin? So Rashi says, was it a shayla? Rashi says, maybe in our parsha is we got praises of the Avish's name, and we got remembrances of going out of Egypt and Nisim and all those things on him. So that we have to remember a special remembrance by putting on tefillin. But the Avishter, what's he got to remember? What's that? By the Avishter, all these in on him. And for the Gemara, what's written in the Avishter tefillin? Omalei umi ki amcha ki Yisrael goy echad ba. What's written in the Avishter tefillin? Yeah. Who is like the Yidden goy echad ba? Pictures of the Avishter, Hashem echad, and that's what we say in our tefillin. The Avishter says goy echad. But what's it does to the Yidden? You've been building yourself up a whole rubbish pile over there. Plus you're making all sorts of faulty shofar noises over there. Emma, man, come to us. Kosher shofar. So come to us. That the Eibishter carries in his tefillin praises of the Eibishter. I'm sorry, praises of the Yidden. So later on, the Gemara says, well, that's only one box. What about the other boxes? So the Gemara reckons out all sorts of other pasukim that talk about the greatness of Yidden. And it mentions our pasuk also, L'shitcho elyain al kol goy haaretz. That's one of the parashas, or psukim that's written in one of the batim. And a couple other psukim. In other words, mi kam kisor goy haaretz was one bias, and there's another bias, another bias, another bias. All four of them talking about the greatness of the Jewish people. And they are the harikoid. They are the tefillin of the Eibishter. It says, "Mi mishtabach kutsha b'richo b'shvachayot Yisrael." Does the Eibishter then praise himself with the praises of the Jewish people? I mean, we see the Eibishter putting on these tefillin, and that's supposed to be an elevation, like a tremendous milah, and a tremendous elevation. So the Eibishter elevates himself through the praises of the Jewish people. So the Gemara says, yes, he does. Yeah. The Gemara says, yes, he does. How do we know that? Desiv es Hashem ha'amato hayoim v'Hashem ha'amircho hayoim. Yeah, you've said to the Eibishter, Ani ma'amirotcha, and he says, okay, Ani ma'amirot otchem. Omer lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYisrael. The Eibishter says to the Jewish people, Atem asisuni chativa achas be'olam. You've made me like one entity, one special united entity. A chativa, it's a very interesting word. A chativa achas be'olam, v'ani eschem chativa achas be'olam. Just like you've made me a one and only entity in the world, I'm going to make you also a one and only entity in the world. You made me a one and entity in the world. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ani eschem mi ki am Yisrael ko echad ba. So we see that at this pasuk, Herr Matave, Herr Mircha, is that Yidden have made the Eibishter the one and only, as it were, in the world. They've made the Sinyan, and therefore Rashi comes along, and he says that this word Chativo is also from Russian Shevach. It's like a praise, that you've made, a one and only, like praiseworthy entity of the Eibishter, and therefore that's the Inyan of Herr Marto, the Samru Kol Pei Aliyah, and the other Inyan of Tiferet, like he brings over here. Herr Marto means Herr Mircha is no Malala. Marto, the Eibishter does the same to the Jewish people. Miki Amcha Kiyas, Yisrael Goyach Hadbar. We see that at Herr Marto, Herr Mircha, I've got to do with Chativa Achas, making a one and only entity out of Hashem, making him the one and only in the world, and that causes backwards that the Eibusha makes the Jewish people one and only in the world, or he's Megala, he reveals in front of the world that that's one and only people. This is Goy Echad Ba'or. The Alter Rebbe teaches in Tanya, in the Geras HaKodesh, but the Alter Rebbe brings over there that why he didn't call Goy Echad, because they bring down the Eibusha's Echad afilu be'oretz, afilu be'eretz HaGashmiyas, types the Alter Rebbe, they bring down Hashem's Echad. And when it comes to this, how they call it a interwoven portion, that the one and only Chativa of the Eibishter, and the one and only Chativa of the Yidden react, that the Yidden turn the whole world into Hashem Echad, and the Eibishter turns the whole world into he turns them into a one and only entity. Because they're prepared to give themselves away in such a way that they bring him in the form of Echad, I feel when they're in the Gashmistic world. And instead of chasing after the many of the world, they say, no, we're only interested in one and only in Havaya Echad. And it would appear then that is the Inyan of Tefillin, that's connected by Etzem. But we learn that how come that the Eibusha makes his Tefillin, the praises of the Eden, we learn it from that pasuk. It's a simon that pasuk is connected BMS with the Inyan of Tefillin, and that will remember be the Hemshech, that the Eden are Nam Zgula, and they're also had to go to the Tehila, L'Shem, U'L'Sifer. So comes along the Panim Yavis, the Pinchas Bala Aflo. He was the Alter Rebbe's very well-known Chaver, not just Amachaver. The Alter Rebbe called him his Rab. On certain occasions, the Pinchas Bala Aflo, he was with the Alter Rebbe by the Magid, and he wrote a sefer on the Torah called Panim Yavis. He wrote others for him also, but on the Torah he wrote a sefer called Panim Yavis. And the Pinchas Bala Aflo, he says that Torah and Tefillin seem to go together, because he says Hashem, first of all we say that Yeminoi zu Torah, and Shmoiloi is the Eibusha's Tefillin, U'oiz. So he says that we see when you learn Torah, when a Yid sits down and learns Torah, that brings a whole new chayas into the world. And he said that when you learn Torah Lishma, and you devote yourself be'emes to learning Torah, all the things which are written in the Torah, that the Eibusha created the world, and that everything is from the Eibusha, and all this thing, Torah, all the Inonim which are written in the Torah, all happen all over again. And therefore he brings the pasuk in Yeshaya Novi, at the end of the Haftarah, when Shabbos Pasuk Rosh Chodesh, that there's a Shamayim HaChadoshim, there's a Oretz HaChadosho Asher Ani Oiseh. But David says in reference to Moshiach, he's going to make a new heavens and a new earth. So the Bala Fleur says that somebody who learns Torah, he makes every moment that he learns Torah, he makes every day a new heavens and a new earth, because he through the learning of Torah, he puts into reality, that he brings out the whole new world, Shemayim. Therefore, it's written in the pasuk, not I'm going to make a new Shemayim v'oretz, but it's written as a Shemayim v'oretz, achadoshim asher ani oiseh. It says the Pitlis Balachor that he's doing it the whole time. And he said, the Father, when you put on tefillin, when I eat like tefillin, he puts on himself the inyan of tefillin, the way it should be, then he's megala and he brings out, and he's mamshik the same inyan, that he has the ability to renew the whole world, to renew the whole creation, and to use the old expression in Yiddish, opleben de Welt. That is it, to make a rash and make levity the ganze Welt. And when the Goyim see that, and a Goy chapt it, he's a koyach that's in charge of the whole bria, and they see that symbolized on the cup and on the heart of a Jew, so then they fall, it's fault of their pacha. And it's not just stammer pacha that they run away, but it's like an ore. How do you know the word in English? Something which achieves unbelievable new in yonim causes you what's called an ore, A-W-E. And ore means like a yira miyuchetet. And Mamela says to Pitlis Balachor, this is the year that falls on a goy when he sees a year that's put on tefillin. Because he makes new the whole creation. And that'll be the whole union of, I made you, or you made me, chati v'achas ba'ilam, afatem, ani yosechem chati v'achas ba'ilam, I make a whole united entity, that the Yid's got to, as it were, to change the whole creation, to bring it out into newness with the whole Rifus Ha'ina, like we saw in our Maimon. If a Yid wouldn't be learning Torah somewhere in the world, and he wouldn't learn it, it would be probably then the whole world would just go back. It wouldn't be able to continue to exist. It has to be the infinite limit of Torah. It's a wondrous union. The Torah and Tefillin are connected together in this pasuk here. So to go a little bit further in the nakuda of goyim having pachad, what's the union of the Eibishter putting on tefillin? Now, what does it mean that the Eibishter puts on tefillin? What's the times? He makes you one and you make him one. The whole thing doesn't mean the Eibishter puts on tefillin. And if I come again, I saw in a certain sefer, he brings down from the tzlach, which one on the tzlach is a Rosh Hashanah, Tzir Malefesh Chayo, and that's a sefer from the, what was his name? The Neidah B'Yehuda. Yeah, that's a sefer from the famous, the Achron called the Neidah B'Yehuda. Well, it's one on that he was a big, had he got not close to it, he was against the Baal Shem Tov, he was one of the big Menadim. To the Baal Shem Tov, but nonetheless, the Alter Rebbe said that he learned Torah Lishma. The Alter Rebbe praised him, even though, and there's a whole story about his daughter, and the basis from the mountain, right near the end of his life, he had a man. Well, his daughter, she suspected that something was going on here with these Baal Shem Tovs and with these Hasidim, and she got the wind that something was really going, and she went and got a bracha, and the bracha worked, and it was amazing. And her father asked her what happened. She said she got the bracha from the Baal Shem Tov, and the Neidah B'Yehuda said he has to think it over. He can't react too quickly on the spot. So we're not sure whether he was actually makabel the Baal Shem Tov or whatever. It remains a little bit in darkness, but at least he did hear about the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov, Ba'Evan Amiti, from his daughter. However, suffice it to say, and Neidah B'Yehuda said, what are the times that the Eibishter puts on tefillin, that just like we see that when Yidden put on tefillin, that they have ability to arouse a guardianship on themselves. The goyim, fear them, and they sense something higher in them. So that means that what the Eibishter putting on tefillin means that there's a special inyan lamaila. What the Eibishter protects the Jewish people. He's mamshich, a special protection. And the lamaila, that when he sees he didn't put on tefillin, he's megala a koyach, which makes the klippers all become batel, an unable enemy and unpleasant inyanim, not able to affect the Jewish people. That's kaviyach the Eibishter putting on tefillin, of it's similar to the way they Yidden do it, and really the Yidden do it, and they're only kilo megala a koyach lamaila, which is bedimen to their tefillin. Are not mamish that the Eibishter puts on? Are not mamish that the Eibishter puts on tefillin? From Tzigay and Harikoid, Chassidus Chabad. Chassidus Chabad says, oh yeah, the Eibishter does put on tefillin. The Eibishter puts on tefillin. And you guys have all heard it many times, but you probably didn't listen very carefully because you probably didn't understand, or you thought everybody else was just schmoozing, so you also did. Didn't you? And that is that in the mitzvah that the bar mitzvah boys say, in the Maimon that the bar mitzvah boys say, at the bar mitzvah, it's written over there that the Eibishter puts on tefillin, isn't it? What do you mean to tell me that you're so from all the pots and pans over there, and all the dinim with the tarevet? What sort of rabbanim are you going to be if you learn a bit about your pots and pans and you have to take a shlof? That it's written in that Maimon over there that the Eibishter puts on tefillin. And in Derek Mitzvah Selcha, Mitzvah's tefillin, it's also brought down over there. The Rebbe Tzaddik writes that the Eibishter puts on tefillin. I wish it. So, in order to understand that, we just need to think for a moment, what does it mean that you put on tefillin? What's it a shot that you tie a box on your arm, you put this box on your head with the infant? Who was sitting there? Somebody was sitting there. Oh, I see. Yeah, now I know who it is. Certain people just won't chop. You tell them and you beg them that they should understand that Latui Vosam Hamitius Tomid Kol Hayomim V'Kol Hashonim V'Kol HaTkufes Koil Moshiach or Le'achar Moshiach. That if you just make an effort and you break your head for a little while, and you break your goof, and you really get what's being said, that'll be Latui Vosam Hamitius Kol Hayomim. And you don't want to look at all the nourishkeit, and you don't look at the world, and you don't look at films for Monim Klam, and noch solche Obermeisters with Stuth, for heaven. But you put yourself in the Torah and in the mitzvahs, for a period of your life, and then it's Tomid Kol Hayomim, Achriz it's an higher life, a new world, an higher level. Some people just won't have. And I think you might sit up straight. Don't sit like a drawing room meeting in the middle of a shir. That'll also help you, Tomid Kol Hayomim. It'll help you that you'll never sit in drawing room meetings for cloud, except if they're gathering money for Tom Chetmim. Rafa, what does it mean you put on to? So the Rebbe over there, and Derek Mitzvah, the Rebbe over there, and the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur say that when you put on tefillin, you're being mamshich on yourself, moichim. How do you call it? Chochmah bina. You're being mamshich dina with brain power. And Kaddish, the first parsha, the four parshas is Chochmah, and V'hoyo Kiviyacho is bina, Shema, and V'hoyim Shemoya Das. Why two? Because this one on the das divides into chesed and gvul. It splits into all the hergish. And the midas which are chesed or gvul. But the father shinin on the shalrosh of the tefillin, one shin's got 3 heads, the other one's got 4 heads. The one is connected bina, one is connected yada. In other words, the one with 4 heads is the inif and da. And if moichin, praying, chachma bina v'da. So you might say, well, look, anyway, if a mensch learns Torah, if he does good things, and he's got a mind, and he's got chachma bina v'da. What does he need to put on his hand and his? What's doing on his hand, him king? Near his heart. So that's eating. You have to make sure that the moichin reach the heart. They've got to be nimshik b'techa lei. Oh, the one on the cup is emerson moichin. So sagt the Alter Rebbe over there, Baricha is gedoyler, and the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek also Baricha. And they say that what is the difference? That there's moichin stam, and then there's what we call moichin pnimi. There's like moichin pnimi yachmi. Moichin which are really lamayla me seichel. But they're still called moichin because if you make a right kli, you can also understand that. And also comes into your chokman, into your bina, and into your da. In other words, at the Indian of putting on tefillin is to be mamshi very special. Moichin el yoinim. In other words, pnimius of chokma, pnimius bina, pnimius of da. And so, what's the Indian? The pnimius of chokma. The pnimius of chokma looks at the world and it says, no, that is not a world. So you say the pnimius of chokma, well, yes, it is. And you say, oh no, pnimius of chokma said it's not a world. It's the Eibishter. Ein oid milvada. In other words, that it says that it's not what it looks like. Comes again, Bina, and Bina runs around with all sorts of amazing ideas and eloquence. And the end of it is, how do you call it, the Sachakur. You know the story of Rabbi Yom Kletchke, the Alter Rebbe's Chotid. They had a big business and he used to give out invoices. Once he gave out an invoice to a guy that wanted to sell him a whole big lot of wood, logs. Right? And he made the whole judge, and at the bottom he wrote, was written sum total. Instead of writing the number, he wrote Ein oid milvada. Those are the sum total. Raise it from the mount. And then he went into another factory that was owned by a chaver of his. And this guy had worked out a way of making cigarettes. And he had a little machine or something that would make in those days considered a big, invention. He had a little machine that would roll they had to put the tobacco inside the paper. So you have to do it so. And when Rabbi Yom Kletchke looked at that, then he just lifted up his eyes and I thought, maybe he was just thinking about something, and he went all pale, and in the end he almost fainted, and they had to take him into the office and sit him down. Give him to drink cold water, and give him a coffee with the whole mass and all this. And they said to him, what on earth, was? So he said, well, I saw, the influence of the Meibushter. He said, I saw the wonders of Hashem. All he saw was a little sort of automatic machine that draped itself around. And so he wrote on the bottom of the invoice, Ein oid milvada. So now we have to charge toilet money. There's no other way out of it. So the Chassidim came in and they saw that he'd written on this invoice. So the guy didn't know what he was doing. The guy sees it. So he got this big list of things he's supposed to be getting money for, and at the end he sees something crouched in some sort of weird looking thing at the bottom, and he doesn't know how much it is. So he thinks that this must be a sign that he has in his business for a certain amount of thousands or something. So he goes into a yid down the road and he asks him, what, how much is this really worth? What is he written on the invoice? So this yid takes a look at it and he sees Ein oid milvada. So he ran and told the other Chabadniks of him, and they all came in and they wanted to give him parts. They wanted to give him a Chassidische patch. You know what a Chassidische patch is? They want to get up on the table and they're going to take off their belt and they're going to give it to him. Yeah, that's what they wanted to do. So they said, you think you're overacting yourself? It's chitzenia. But you have to write on a guy's invoice, I know it no valid. This is chitzenia. It's showing off. So they want to give him a Chassidische patch. So in defense of himself, he said, I'm prepared to get up on the table and I'm prepared to carry all the thrashes that you give me. But he said, I just got one defense of myself before I do. And they said, you're old. So he said that, look guys, he said, if in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, when I'm holding the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, all of a sudden I can picture myself these logs, coming down the river. That was business. He used to bring all these woods down on the river. He said, I can think in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, I can picture all these logs coming down on the river. He said, isn't it only fair that when I'm actually dealing with the logs, I should be able to think about Shemoneh? Not bad. So they said, but this time we won't give you a Chassidische patch. Lafi zeh kommt that in the middle of nowhere, Rabbi Yomi Kletzke wrote, Ein oid mel, no what? In other words, that in the middle of a crazy world, you've got to know that it's not there. It's a mistake. It's quite a tricky mistake. But it's a mistake. Now, who are the Mishugoyim that say that? Yid. That's Yid. And I found when you put on tefillin, the tefillin stick out on your head, the maki for the rosh. Why? That's Chochmah Bina Das. Chochmah Bina Das is inside your mind. That's what the Elter said. The Bayim, it's inside his head as well. What are you putting Chochmah Bina Das on your head? It should be in your head. So the Chassidus is masber because that's such high moichin that they're makifim on the ordinary moichin. They're soivev kolamin compared to the ordinary moichin. It's another type of moichin. It's another way of using your brain. Tefillin is teaching you another way. Either tefillin shel yad, you got to go bring it, and you got to bring it down and get it in the heart. And you got to teach your heart also to be like that. But you don't chase after everything that falls into your heart. And what you do is you teach the world and yourself that all emotions and all things which mean anything have to be according to the rule that ain't no idmel. And then you know what to do. Then there's hope, and Be'ez Hashem, then it will be the way the world is really meant to be. And I need to that the mitzvah from tefillin is moichin, but it's not moichin. So he came, why don't we put on tefillin on Shabbat? So the Alter Rebbe is masber over there, and Chassidus Bariches, that on Shabbos is so high that goes in and becomes taka b'teicha harosh by everybody. Those makifim and nimshachim Panemius, there's nimshach much bigger makifim on Shabbos that they're even too big for the tefillin. In other words, on Shabbos, it's taka ein oid muvade, sheba ein oid milvad. Allah is brought down in the Yerushalmi that you can't even talk on Shabbos. Because it's written that the Yerushalmi says that it's only very great difficulty that you're allowed to talk on Shabbos. So he says, what's our Shabbos is that? Well, we have to sit around Chapsab Shmued, a nice little friendly Shmued. Imam Elul kommt euch that tefillin are moichin, aber they're not moichin, or they are moichin. In other words, that they're the greatness and the ability of the moyach, the brain of a yid, to take that which is l'mayla from brain and make that brain. It's also understandable, and to him it makes sense. That's why Ben Yomi Kletzke said, I don't know what you guys want from me. That is the ordinary sahako. That's what makes sense. Ain't no idman. Das ist die Indien von Tefillin. Aber now kommt raus, that the Indien of Tefillin is the teaching and the power that a Yid has every day, and he steps up. He's supposed to go higher and higher from day to day in bringing down into his life Pnimi in some ways, not just ordinary understanding, not just even the ordinary seichel, but the seichel amiti, and the Pnimi is a seichel, are the nefesh. The whole Metzias of Chochmah is ayin. And the Chassidim used to say, let's first of all start off with the fact that nothing's there, and then let's see where we get from after that. No. Now we can maybe get some idea. What is it this Indian? Hashem Ha'amatu Hayim, Hashem Ha'amirucho Hayim. That's got to do with the Indian Tefillin. In other words, that you take the Eibishter, like Rashi says, you separate him off. Yeah, and you say that Elokus is completely and utterly beyond us. On the other hand, Rashi says, oh, wait a minute. It is within your reach. It's the Indian from Tiferes. You've just got to elevate yourself, and you can make connection with it. And that's the Indian of how do you call it, praise and elevation. And therefore Rashi connects the two of them together, even though they're not really connected at first glance. And then comes along the pasuk, and it says that the Eibush has made you as Gula, like the Chaim HaKodesh says, only Yidden can do it. Nobody else can do it. And what is it? L'sehila, l'shema, l'tiv. First, look up in L'Kutei Torah. In this week's parasha, he teaches those three inyanim at the end of the first Maimon, the Alter Rebbe, and he says, L'sehila, l'shem, l'teferes is Chabad, Chochmah, Bina, and he said, Tehillah is the inyan from Chochmah, because Tehillah is from Loshen, another pasuk which says, Behilo Neroi. That your light, how do you call it, flashes and burns. With power. And he said, that's Indian for Chochmah. The Chochmah is that lightning flash, that light that lights everything up, and that's called Tehillah. And Tehillah means praise, and how do you call it? Wondrous praise, not stam. Because Chochmah is that Indian of, what does the Alter Rebbe say in Tanya Perek Lamed Hey and the Hagor? That Ein Hulavade, Ve'ein Zulosei, Zuhi Madreges HaChochmah. That Ein Hulavade, Ve'ein Zulosei. That's the Indian from Chochmah. And then he says, shame is the Indian from Bina. Because Lagabi Chochmah, Bina is only a name. It's only like a, how do you call it, a reflection. It's not like a ha'or. But shame means something that becomes known. Shame is a name. The thing gets publicized, that when you bring it out into detail and you work at it and you develop it around, it becomes known to you, and also it bursts out of your kelim and it becomes known to other people. Then you can give it over. Oh, but he said, the Indian from Tiferes, it's one other. Tiferes is the Kavayim Tzoi, how do you call it, the middle line. What does it mean from Das? Das is the Mokia of the middle line. And therefore, he said, the Indian from Das is Kavayim Tzoi. What is it, the Indian of his kashrus and involvement, Ibe, how do you call it, Ibe Gegepa, and devoted and involved in everything that Chochmah and Bina have taught you. And then you become Tiferes, meaning beauty, you become a striking example of everything you learn. In other words, that the Indian of learning is not learning. Ultimately, the Indian is to be a living example of what you learn. Das ist der Rike, and das ist the Indian von Tiferes. That you've got to be a walking on 2 feet example of what you learn. From Chochmah, what you learn from Bina. And this is the three inyanim from the Sehila, L'Shem, L'Tiv, Tiferes, and that's the inyan weiter Tefillin. Aber this is the inyan of Tefillin, how they come through. The inyan of Pnimius, V'atzmius, Hamoichin, and they're made into the bench, and then he becomes a ish chokma when he takes off the tefillin. And the father, the Rebbe said, once you take it off the tefillin, you also got a ha'orah of these inyanim. That throws a pachad on the goyim. Yesh loima that we could say by way of tonight is Tesvav Elul. Tonight is the night that the Rebbe Rashab founded the Yeshiva Tomchei Tmimim. What is the Indian from the Yeshiva Tomchei Tmimim? What is it all about? But this is the Indian from the Sehilo, the Shem, or the Tiferet. And the Indian from Chochma, Bina, Da. The Alter Rebbe didn't call his shit Yechida. He should have called it Ein Sof. Or he could have called it Bali Teshuvah. One only. He wanted to call it Bali Teshuvah. He thought about it. But instead, what did he call it? Chochma Bina V'Duas. What is the meaning of Chochma Bina V'Das? How it's nimshach into the koiches Harayah Chochma Bina V'Das. Oh, but what sort of inyanim and nimshach? Tehillah. Tehillah is the meaning of a burning light that's going upward. And Tiferet is the meaning of Kavem Tzoy. Ja, Kavem Tzoy Elad Pinimis Ve'achmias HaKeser. Kiyodua. What is a man? What he's learned and applies, which is l'sehila, l'shem, l'tiferes. He, when he takes off his tefillin, he's a living example of pnimius chochma bina v'duas, but in such a way that it'll become the whole klolus of Yiddishkeit. In other words, if for whatever reason it may be, up until the Baal Shem Tov, and up until the Arizal, these inyonim were there, but they weren't the, what you might call the property of the whole clouded soil. They weren't, how do you call it, the ownership and the right to be used in a way that's Hashem of Ali Yidden throughout the whole world. Loi mi boy mi, loi mi shana mizer. And came along the Arizal, and the Alter Rebbe brings it in Tanya, mitzvah legalis zeis ha-chochma. It's already a mitzvah to begin revealing this hidden of the Chochmas HaKabbalah, the Pnimis HaTorah, Nishmasa, Doiraisa. It became a time when it came around the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov said even more and even more, it's got to become the right and the property, even of the Pashatah, and even of the Anoshim HaPashutim, and then came along the Alter Rebbe, and he said we have to take it the way it is and make it the property of the Anoshim. Not just water it down or alter it into some little sort of series of words here and there, but in an organized way, bring it in such a way that Anoshim Regilim Al-Chaponim should be able to understand it, and eventually Afutzu Mayon Esacha, Chutzah, it'll go out into the outer Chutzahs, and all sorts of people will understand Tanya. And they all understand the Indian Tanya, Loshem Pnimis HaNeshama, Esau, that they all understand the Indian from Pnimis HaTorah, Amamela does it l'shem, l'tehilo, l'shem, or l'tiferet. And if yesh lema, Tomchei Tmimim is the embodiment and the realization of that promise that there will be a place where they will go out, Begoli, l'tehilo, l'shem, or l'tiferet, and the Alter Rebbe ties his clause, Chochma Bina V'Das. Tomchei Tmimim is yeshiva's chapad. It's the yeshiva which gives forth those inyonim, but it gives them forth in such a way that they are meir, b'pnimiyusam, b'toich ha'olam, ha'karish baruch hu maniach tefillin. That the Eibishter Kaviyachol Lamaila is mamshich into his midas, the inyan from pnimis ha'moichin, and it's brought down in Kabbalah that the pnimis ha'moichin, al-pi pnimis ha'inyan, how it is Lamaila, is rachamim. Because Gevulis is only mitzad midas. Or where emes ha'moichin is meir in the midas, then you have only rachamim. And the whole inyan Lamaila of the Eibishter putting on tefillin is that he's mamshit through the inyan of pnimis ha'moichin into his gvura, and particularly, and into all the midas shebatzilas, the inyan from rachamim. V'ameres v'nimshich l'mata toiv v'chesed v'rachamim tomit kol And therefore we see that from the moment the Rebbe came out with Mivtza Tefillin, Melech HaMoshiach said, Yidden, Mivtza Tefillin, from then on, you've had all sorts of Komim Al Yisrael. Ad Hayom still, many of them still trying it. To damage and to even destroy or wipe out Yisrael, Chelik mi Am Yisrael, and Baruch Hashem, Kol Pam, we see that Michodosh, it falls into no good, and eventually it falls into absolute to it, and Rahmanin and Klan. What is the unbelievable situation now is that the Yidden themselves, Rahmanin and Klan, have joined in on the game, and they are deliberately trying to carry out what the Goyim normally were trying to do. So that's a very dangerous Indian. Can you do it? But the Eivish of Tzitcha helping that's also going to fall apart, just like all the other shittas, the Meshach Kol HaDoros that have tried to make something better than Yiddishkeit. They've all fallen apart. They've all fallen into fallen into destruction. Okay, we don't have what to be afraid of, because Hashem oiz le'ama yitein Hashem Yevorach Esami ba'asholoi. When they say the inim from Hashem miyaminoi eish ta'as lomoi, we got the yamin and the small is also tefillin, and tefillin is like we said, the inim from pnimis hamoich and the inim from rachamim. So it's all the inim from chesed v'rachamim, teirus chesed. And the inim from tefillin, and then we have to put the tefillin dafke on the left hand. And it's brought down that is the union of la'achcha, smaller yamin, that you turn the small into the get of yamin. And that's what we see when the Friedrich Rebbe, by mitzvah, the Rebbe Rashab said that long Maima, the famous Maima, that tefillin the Mori Alma Mike Sibu, or that piece of Gemara, the Rajab, the Rebbe begins with that Gemara, and he goes with this huge arichas, which spreads over about 40 or 50 pages, on a beer, what's the din of the Eivish puts on the tefillin, and it's written in them the praise of the Jewish people. And what do we see from that? We see that Sof Kol Sof, and it's put down in certain Sfarim that the Gog and Magog, the last war that's going to take place at the time of these scholars of Melech HaMoshiach has got to do with tefillin and the Eivish tefillin. It's written in the capital base, in the second chapter of the Tehillim. It's written, we say over there, that someone's going to throw down the things that he ties on. If we're going to tashlich as moisrei seimoy or something like that. So the Medrash Tillim says that Gog and Magog are going to try and throw down the Eibishter's tefillin. And from which, it's written in the Eibishter's tefillin, the praise of the Jewish people, so they're going to make a cheshbon that the only way to get is to go to the Eivish and get him thrown down. Throw down the Eivish. They stayed in the Medrash Tillim. That's going to be the last fight. The last fight is going to be with that inyan. And the Rebbe knew that the way to beat Gog and Magog was to found Tofet Mim. That you got to have a koyach of Yidden that they are the Eivish's too. They are moichin. Chochma bina das, but they're moichin pnimiyim v'atzmiyim. But they get it from the Rabbeim, remember that's not stam moichin, that's tulindik moichin, and there's an atzmistik moichin. You know the story was given when the Chofetz Chaim, when he met the Rebbe Rashab in the famous Nuit, and he saw there was a couple of Siddushim in Galai with the Rebbe Rashab, and he said to the Rebbe Rashab, what is your secret? How is it that you get such edel faces? They have very, how do you call it, delicate faces, your guys. How do you get such edel peniments? You don't know the story, but the Chofetz Chaim asked the Rebbe Rashab. So the Rebbe Rashab, he said that because they learn Chassidus, they learn Pnimis HaTorah, we teach them Pnimis HaTorah, that's why they look that way. So the Chofetz Chaim said, what say? He said, I'll bring into my yeshiva, I'll also bring that I learn Tanya, and I'll learn with the Pnimis HaTorah, somebody will also look like that. So the Rebbe Rashab just smiled. He didn't answer, he just smiled. So Chofetz Chaim was a very a very observant person. So Chofetz Chaim said later to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he said, why when I said that I would introduce Pnimis HaTorah to my yeshiva, why did your father smile? What was that smile? So the Frierdiker Rebbe said, listen, he said, it's not enough just to learn Pnimis HaTorah, you have to learn Pnimis HaTorah from our Rebbe. It has to be doctor from our Rebbe. He said, well, my father didn't want to tell you that wouldn't be modest, so therefore he just smiled. He said, but I'm able to tell you. He said, the reason why they look like that is because of my father. In other words, that you gotta learn the meaning from Pnimis HaTorah from our Rebbe. That's the answer to your question. But the Rebbe has to be with us. The Rebbe is with us, Baruch Hashem. And the far we're learning Pnimis HaTorah from the Rebbe. And somebody said to me the other day, I don't want to praise anybody, I don't want to blow our heads too much. And somebody said to me, he knows from one of our Talmidim that lives in Chutzrot, and he said there's some sort of special little touch about this guy. And he said, he came through your yeshiva. So I just looked up my finger and I pointed at the picture of the Rebbe on the wall. And he just smiled and he said, okay, Rabbi, have a good day, and so on and so forth. And that was it. That's L'Seferes, L'Shem, L'Sehilo, L'Shem, for L'Seferes, but that's Nimshach for this is Nimshach. For Amos Rebbe, that goes L'Sehilo, Pnimis HaChokma, Pnimis HaBina. And the far, that's the union from Tefillin. And the far who brought the whole approach, the whole Jewish people into the world with the mitzvah of Tefillin, Lubavitch. And not just Lubavitch, but the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So there we are, my gentlemen, and take it from me out. You should see the L'Shem, the Shehilo, L'Shem, or L'Seferes, Mamish Begolui. And all the Goyim will say, you see, Baruch Hashem. By the way, let's get a book for, what's his name? And that's the union with the Rebbe worried about the Goyim also. They're going to learn the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noyah. So everybody said, well, is he going to make a whole rigmarole now about the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noyah? When is he going to finish? I'm not making a rigmarole, but it's a very interesting point. It's certain to point out that the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noyah is not just a code, but the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noyah has a religion. And the so-called Christians and the Lahavdil and all these others, they tamper with what was the original religion that the Eivshter made for all men. Noah was the founder of the world after the Mabul, and he gave him a code which is for all men. And you believe that the Eivshter runs the world. If you're going to be an emissary B'nai Noach Dikeh, you got to believe in the Eivshter. You got to believe in that he runs the world. You got to believe in it's a religion. It's a perfect religion. The Eivshter runs the world, and these are his 7 laws. There's all sorts of, like the Rebbe said, all sorts of sub-laws, You can even write a Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe said they should write a Shulchan Aruch for the Goyim. The Rebbe said should write a Shulchan Aruch. Come to Israel, he said that it's a religion. It's just it's a stomach, so no, this is L'Sehilo, L'Shem, L'Teh, Perez, and that's vital about it. Who brought the whole thing back into the world? First of all, the Rambam, right? And then who is the Rambam? The Alter Rebbe, the next Rambam. In the history is the Alter Rebbe, and the next Rambam in the history is the Rebbe. And he's the final Rambam because he's also the Inyan of Melech Moshiach. Maybe Hashem should help us to take it from here. We say all these Inyanim Begilui, and it should be the Tehillah, the Shem, the Teh. We are the name of Melech Moshiach.